Hello, and welcome to this Eyes of Harmony First Thoughts. We're doing it. We're doing it straight away. We've done it 2 weeks in a row.
Relatively straight away.
Relatively. I was a bit late. I was at an Arsenal match. But we're here. War of the Sontarans, Episode 2, Chapter 2 of Flux, Series 13. There's too many things. Too many things to go through. But yeah. Okay.
What year is it?
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly what they were asking multiple times in this episode. So, yeah, a lot more focus this week, which I definitely I was happy with. That it wasn't quite as fucking crazy as last week's episode. There was a bit more, it was very more solid on the Sontarans and that side of things. There was a bit of the swarm kind of thing in this other thing, but I'm glad the Weeping Angels weren't there at all. Or yeah, maybe that house at the start is a bit to do with the Weeping Angels, but otherwise,
I mean, it's all tied in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I know what year is it was. That was partly a pun, but also like, what year is it to where like I could actually watch a Doctor Who episode from beginning to end and just like, like almost entirely enjoy it.
It was
like from beginning to end. Like this is probably my favorite episode of the entire era of the Jodie Whittaker era, like period. I love like I was just hooked. Like
It was
I
a
know I
great
kind
time.
of said I was last week, right? But it was it was still a bit of a setup episode. Like you can't really get super hooked on that. But I was into it. This week,
Banging.
This is the good shit.
Yeah.
Wait,
It was a really good
the last
Sontaran
several
story.
years. Where was this?
So I think
why? How long? Why is it taking you so long to fill up a script to this quality?
it was very, very good. I really enjoyed the threat. It made sense. Everything that made sense, like what happened in the first episode, all makes sense now. Like, because I was like, why is he yelling attack? And it makes sense. They were waiting for that moment where they were going to protect the Earth and slip in. And and then like kind of like inserting themselves through time. I love that bit where she was looking at the map and it was just Sontar instead of Russia.
Exactly.
That was great.
I mean, this is just it. Like let me say about this. Like, I know the Flux inherently is like an interesting sci-fi concept, but the fact that they're, really hammering on the sci-fi, and while they do have sort of a historical setting here, it is much more of a sci-fi episode as opposed to like a historical episode. Well, there's any problem with some of the historical episodes, as they were some of the stronger ones in the previous seasons, but where I have felt like they've struggled throughout the last couple of seasons was in the sci-fi.
Yeah.
And here it's it's like
just great.
Interesting and great and well executed, like throughout. And like everything makes sense. Like the way they I mean, you maybe be able to nitpick and stuff, but like everything made sense watching the episode. There wasn't anything that was glaringly like, okay, why is this like this, right?
Yeah.
It was just like, I just really liked it.
It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. The Sontarans were written perfectly. Like all of their dialogue was great. I love the bit where
and they referenced links.
They did. I was like, the flag. Yeah.
That's an explanation as to why they want to colonize Earth. Like he already claimed it.
He claimed it.
From their perspective, it's theirs.
It was never unclaimed. Like it is. Yeah, it was great. I love the bit where he's like, and I wanted to start here, lots of bloodshed, and I wanted to ride a horse. It's just like that kind of dumb shit, but that is so Sontaran. Like it really is.
They properly show. Yeah, the comedy aspect is still very much here, but they also really do properly like hammer in the threat level. I mean, not that they didn't do that in the last like proper Sontaran story, like with the whole Atlas choking.
Oh, they got them right in that one as well.
Yeah, they did. But like here, like you get those moments of comedy, but then you also get like a bunch of like people being rounded up and shot without even the final words. It's like
I love that. Where it's like, if you've got any final words, keep them to yourselves, and then just executed them on the spot. I was so glad they did that.
But also,
it shows a threat level, and it shows the bravery of Dan as well in that moment to then still go into the ship.
Keep going,
and
and also I'd say like with their ruthlessness, like also of course in their own troops, that one, one that was being ashamed, and of course he then begs for mercy, and they just shoot him without like a second
executed him.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, brilliant stuff. Really great. The Sontarans just worked. Do you know what sucks? Is just I just really wish this story was longer. I think just enough for 20 minutes would have been great for this story. Because I really like the Sontarans, and I feel like it was such a good idea of them doing attacks through time, like inserting themselves at different times. It would have been really great if kind of the build up at the end, you could kind of see them, inserting themselves in World War II, and just seeing all these different battles they're inserting themselves to, and then they're stopped. But I know for the time and everything, but that's what I was kind of hoping they were going to. But
they did explain it.
It was the pilot. It was the pilot scheme.
That was the pilot, and the other place where they were exerted was the place where they landed in the first place. So the two time periods that they had make sense, and of course having a pilot thing to test their stratagem and properly prepare for additional battle is very, very Sontaran, because of course
exactly,
the Sontaran experiment, and of course the Time War in itself was just that, right? Advanced
that was the scouting. That was the scouting of
exactly. This is so Sontaran.
The CG looked great
with an entire troop. Yeah.
So CG looked fantastic. I love the battle sequences. It was great to see just how destroyed the Crimean soldiers were. I really love that. Lovely. It just they just felt like a real threat level. Like every time that even Dan was coming, I knew that Dan wasn't going to die, but I felt a sense of shit, this guy is in danger. And I love that Carvanista.
Yeah, the Sontarans have Stormtrooper aiming as well.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
When they were right down the hallway.
They were a bit close that very first bit in the street. How many? There was 12 of them, and they all missed him. I was like, okay, but it was very entertaining. I had a really good time with it. The acting was good.
Yeah.
Dan is, John Bishop is growing on me. There was only one bit, which was that I'm gonna walk out of here. I was like, oh no, too much. But then luckily Carvanista came in, and I love their whole dynamic. Even at the end where they were like, oh, I hope I never see you again, and there's oh, feelings mutual. But then they do that little nod of that little approving nod, deep down they do kind of like each other at this point. But they have this great kind of banter between them. But I thought I felt like Carvanista kind of knew what to do maybe a little too quick. It would have been good maybe, I don't know.
Well, I mean, given that there's been a couple of days, and in any case they seem
I suppose so. Yeah, it had been.
They had the time to kind of figure a lot of this stuff out. So they did kind of explain that too. Mary C. Cole, it's great to get that sort of representation of a historical figure like that in here, and I think she was they handled her very well. I think she was a very likable character. But of course they did it very differently to how of course they figured a lot of other historical figures, in that of course this is a historical figure but in more or less a fictionalized scenario, which is interesting. Well, I mean, not that the others aren't fictionalized scenarios. I mean, Charles Dickens coming up against.
He did. I'm pretty sure he did. That's true. There's history books on that.
But I mean, I think Doctor has sort of dabbled in taking historical figures out of their
I don't think you need to,
but not on this level. Well, they stay in the time level, but I mean,
they've taken Vincent Van Gogh to the future to show his art off. I think sometimes it's nice when you do take them out of these situations, because I think while Mrs. Seacole was incredibly a great character, it's not like a Rosa Parks moment where you can build a whole episode around them as an individual. She's a great and interesting person, but she works nicely as a side character in a bigger story. And it was her way of, like how she used to look after Russian soldiers, she just took in a Sontaran
Yeah.
instead. That was a really great
Yeah.
moment. And then that
Mm.
moved the story forward really nicely. Great pacing as well. Really
Mm.
good pacing
Absolutely.
for a even
Absolutely.
longer episode as well. This was what, an hour?
Mm.
Was this one an hour?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and like it felt right. I know you said maybe you prefer like another 20 minutes. Felt
Just because
like
the story was
it was
big, it
just
was perfectly
well,
done
yeah,
in this episode. It was
but
perfectly done. I just wanted
we're
to see
not
more.
done.
I wanted to see more of the
We're
Sontarans at least. Sontarans are gone.
fair.
I think.
What
I think
I,
they're gone in
I don't
this.
know. I think with
Maybe one
the
will
way the
show up.
flux works, I think the way the flux works, like this will probably like things will keep coming, and like I can
Mm.
imagine Sontarans, potentially showing up, maybe in like a series finale or something, alongside like a
Maybe a
wave of
couple
all the other
survived, like the
monsters,
general. Maybe the general
or like a new
survived.
wave comes. Like I
Yeah.
think like it'll build up to something bigger, and like every like the monsters set up here will like could well reappear for the finale as like this big like oncoming wave of stuff. At least that's what kind of the feeling I'm getting, but I could be entirely wrong there.
Yeah.
With that.
So Yaz
Um,
had a different kind of role in this. Obviously, she
hmm.
met with Vinda.
But yeah, they both got Dad and Yaz just got yeeted out of there.
Yeah, to start. I mean, honestly, it was fine because like
Yeah.
that was the right kind of eating because it gives you
Hmm.
moments where you can see these character growths away from the
Hmm.
Doctor. Like
Yeah.
having the little ink on the hand of what would the Doctor do is just such a
Hmm.
nice character moment. Like we've never had
Hmm.
anyone else like kind of rely on like the Doctor. I think in such a different kind of way. We've had, people want to impress and be like Clara, etc. But like Yaz is such like a fresh take on that, almost reliant
Hmm.
on how the Doctor does things, and is like
Hmm.
always needs to be reminded of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and she felt under threat. Swarm, I love those guys, Azure and Swarm. I really enjoying their performances as these
Hmm.
kind of it's a bit Jim Carrey is kind of as the mask is kind of a vibe I was getting from the guy. Just like when he was just disappearing around the room and coming up and just like it was quite a camp kind of villain, but in
Just
all the
without
great
the
ways.
cartoon
Yeah,
face
without like the
stretches and eye.
cards. Yeah, but I really kind of feel like it's that kind of there's probably a better like kind of villain to
Hmm.
compare to, but I'm really loving that. Just his performance as it. I want to see a
Hmm.
bit more of Azure, yeah. Because at the minute we haven't got too much with her.
No.
But yeah,
Not
I'm really loving them as the main villains. There's like an
Hmm.
interesting mystery. Their design is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And we've seen the big guy, which we saw in the behind the scenes photos all that time
Yeah.
ago. But I just want to say a huge well done to the production team because these
Hmm.
first two episodes you would not have guessed were made during like pandemic and lockdown.
No.
Like when I watch it, I'm not thinking anything about COVID or I'm not noticing people, standing 2 foot away or anything. Like they've really made it that.
And in general, there was like some very iffy episodes last series. So like the fact that the first two episodes in particular have been like as solid as they have been, like it's way above like what we got last season. So
Yeah,
and yet certain news articles were still calling the CG of the last episode like they were
really?
writing there like
Oh my
no they were
god.
like fans slam the bad CG of the. It's
Oh
like
yeah, I
we
saw that.
didn't
But then
though.
no, I didn't see anyone like slate it. Oh yeah, they had a gravity bar by the way in that first episode, which was in the Sontaran experiment. Like
Hmm.
that was the thing they were hanging on. It's like almost the same
Yeah.
design as the one from the Sontaran
Okay.
experiment. I saw a tweet which compared them, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! What a
Oh,
small."
neat.
But yeah, I was so happy that they referenced links. I thought it was coming
Hmm.
because of the design. I was like, they're gonna have to reference
Yeah.
at some point, especially
Hmm.
with like on the
But
horse. We
and
never
just, and
saw
just the
links on
fact
the
that
horse, but it
no.
was referred to that he rode on a horse.
Yeah. And yeah, just the fact that they had that as sort of the Sontarans' reason for like trying to take Earth in general, right? Is
Yeah,
because I mean that was just a really smart way of tying it all together in the end, given how far long ago that was, and it just makes an awful lot of sense, and almost surprising that they didn't make that connection up to this point.
it was a grand episode. I thought it was yeah.
Hmm.
I mean,
No,
that's
I loved
2 out
it.
of 6.
Like I said, I
Yeah,
just really, really,
really good
really
time.
love. Like I said, probably literally my favorite episode of the era, at
Jodie
least
era.
on on my gut reaction. I mean, of course, anything is open to changing. I think last season I was saying the same thing about essentially the Cyberman men, but that was retroactively kind of dampened a little
Mm.
bit.
See, the one thing I like about
Because of the
this one
finale,
is at
but
least
it
this
doesn't.
one isn't too connected to the
It's
rest of
not.
what's happening. This is quite an
At least the
individual.
A plot,
Yeah, the A
like the
plot.
B
Obviously,
plot with Yaz, and
there's B plot, but I feel like even if that isn't, it's like how I can really still enjoy Heaven Sent because it's so separate to Hell Bent that like you could just enjoy it for what it is. Yes,
and
at the end of the episode he gets to Gallifrey, but
yeah.
before then it's just a fucking
Yeah.
cracking episode.
But it also, and that felt like an appropriate payoff for that particular episode was getting to Gallifrey. What happens next? What happens next? You can kind of disconnect that a little bit. Yeah. What was I about to say? I had a point.
The B plot. It was the B plot is like wasn't too intrusive. I felt.
Yeah,
We still got the Mole Man being
it
weird.
wasn't compared to how intrusive it was in that was what I was going. How intrusive it was in Fugitive of the Dune, where it was just like almost had literally nothing to do with what was going on.
Yeah,
it just was like it just now we're on a spaceship with Jack and he's talking about Cybermen and flirting and whatever's.
yeah.
Whereas here it's actually like properly important to the overall plot.
Yeah.
Like that's going on. So it felt more warranted to have it, particularly the way they set up. They've actually structured this season as opposed to the way they structured the last series, where it just sort of came out of nowhere, left, and it appeared like again, like
and then he wasn't even in the episode with the Cybermen. It was so weird. Like, odd choice of that. But yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. Next week seems more Swarm.
There was several
focus.
Yeah, it was. It's more of it seems to be more of an anthology of villains to an extent, because we saw the Cyberman the next time, we saw the Weeping Angel, so it's going to be more of like.
Well, we know that Weeping Angels is episode 4 because we got the
But they appeared at the end of this trailer. So
yes, I still think that will be like that will be almost the end of this episode, leading into then episode 4, because episode 4
for them to be showing it in this trailer. I wouldn't be surprised if like.
Oh, I think they'll crop up a bit throughout it, but they'll be like the C plot.
I think if we get another B or C plot, like it will set up the next episode,
which is what is it? Village of the Angels, I think is what it's called. That's what they released the title for it. Yeah. It was Village, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that one. Obviously written by Max Aldrin, who was great with the horror concept stuff.
Well, co-written.
Yeah, co-written. I'm sure like she helps a great deal with at least atmosphere and setting up that. But yeah, so Once Upon Time, it would be very interesting. I look forward to watching that next week. Hopefully it keeps up.
It's not like Twice Upon a Time.
I need to rewatch that actually. I haven't watched it since it aired. Though Doctor Who I think got taken down. Even though it had months left.
From Netflix?
No, from iPlayer. They were all there. And then like they were suddenly gone. Because I was going through like series 11 and 12 and then suddenly they disappeared.
They just want you to buy BrickBox, Nick.
Oh, god damn it. But yeah.
That's why we have physical media.
That is why. But yeah, I adored it. I had a really good time.
Yeah.
Sets look great. And the new designs work really well, actually, for the Sontarans. They kind of managed to get those bigger lips to look.
Also, some of the imagery, I just like to point out, like the whole like smoky area where the Doctor and the Sontaran leader were like in that distance in the smoky area, and it all clears and there's a battle. It's like that was just such a cool.
That was fucking epic.
Cool imagery, yeah.
That was great cinematography, and like one good thing that this series is doing a bit more is getting those wide shots. We didn't get enough of those wides kind of in the previous. We get the odd one if it was like like trying to show a big landscape like in Demons of the Punjab or the Ghost Monument we get the odd one, but nothing like there in an intense moment with like the villains. But we've had that kind of back to back. We had that interesting location with the swarm basically in the first one, where it's like, this is our final battle. And now that was they looked great. The cameras they're using at the minute do look awesome, and I do hope that continues into the RTD2 era. But
I mean, and just I'd just like to say that I know I've been always kind of a damp towel sometimes during these, but like, I don't like to not be excited and enjoy Doctor Who episodes. I love the show. There's a reason why I'm here. The reason why I've spent as much money and watched as much as I have.
I think it was the lack of sci-fi for you. It was, and like when you do look back, like there really wasn't that many high-end sci-fi concepts, and this was a great. Like when I was listening to it, I was like, that's a great Sontaran plan. Like that is when you. It's like. When you have a Dalek episode or a Sontaran or a Cyberman episode, the plan has to be solid and make sense. Because if it doesn't, the rest of the episode will just fall down around it. You have to be able to go like, yes, that makes perfect sense for these villains to be doing this. And that was exactly as I was like, invading through time and setting themselves in. Fucking epic. Brilliant stuff.
Of course, the Sontarans with like history and time travel with invasion of time and all that.
Exactly. And dialogue was a lot better as well. I'm finding there's less show don't tell. Like, thank God, when he did when he blew them up at the end with the gunpowder, that was great. I love that bit.
I thought he turn around and go, what did he do? He blew it up. He used the gunpowder and blew them up.
Yeah.
Why would he do that? That probably would have been that.
Yeah, and we didn't even get the reveal of him being like, oh, I'm like talking to the soldiers, and telling them to do it. We just got a look at the end. She removed the feed link, and then he did a look. I was like, oh, is he betraying them? Is he gonna go and tell the Sontarans? Is that why they let him live, or did he just escape? Like, there was a mystery around it until the reveal, and that was really good. I enjoyed that a lot. I love the bit where the TARDIS didn't have a door. That was really cool, and she was going around it. Yeah. That was a really cool moment. Just like, I love that whole TARDIS thing falling apart. Like, what's going on there? Interesting,
Well, we know
narratives.
time's being let loose, and the TARDIS is the first one to be affected, being so connected to time. It's that whole, ring thing.
Yeah, they're on the planet of time, in the temple of Adipos or Adi something, which is Adipose. It's the fact. That's it. Miss Foster turns up. It's like, this is it, Doctor. You watch me drop. That's it. But yeah, I'm interested to see where we go from here. I think this Once Upon Time is going to show the backstory of Swarm, though. That's my guessing. We'll see maybe a bit of their backstory to understand this a bit more.
Or we'll conclude with that. Like, this could be almost like running. This will be one of these scenarios where it's kind of running backwards on different time zones. So they're further ahead because by the end of the season we'll have finally done what happened to them in the first place, as well as dealing with what their current threat.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know everyone's thinking, oh, this has to be the Roof Doctor, but now that he knew who Yaz was. Now I'm thinking, you know what? I think later in the series, they're going to meet Swarm and Azure before they became who they were. And that's their first battle. Maybe in this episode is what it will be. That is they caused this own thing that's now happening. Because that's why I was like, oh, you creatures are so linear.
Yeah. I think that's actually partly what helped this story, is that I didn't even need to think about the timeless child storyline. Because it didn't come up at all, which... good. It really helped. But yeah, no, I don't like being blanket over these things, and I just love that I can actually sit here and and like I said before, I think I said it before, if there's a good episode, I'll be the first to come out and cheer about it, and here I am. I'm happy with a Doctor Who episode.
It was banging.
Very happy.
It was a great episode.
I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Thumbs up from us. That was us. Yeah. I had a great time. I'm looking forward to next week. I'd much happy have this series than maybe the series we're going to get which would have
Yeah.
been, you know, like if we get 6 fucking banging episodes, I'd happily have that
Yes.
above 10 episodes with kind of
Sure.
some all right ones here and there. Like at least
Agreed.
this we've had back to back cracking episodes with interesting narratives and good characters.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Granted, it shouldn't have, been that expectation to where like 10
Yeah.
episodes, it shouldn't have got to that point. But if it is just 6 good episodes, then I guess this was the right call for this season.
And then we hope that the 2 specials and then the final. I'm guessing one of the specials will be a Dalek one. That's my guess. Like,
Almost
seeing as
certainly.
that's like the thing that they've
Yeah.
done.
Like either they'll show up somewhere in this series, and then we'll get something completely different. Because like the whole concept of the Flux, like I could see them just throwing in a Dalek somewhere towards the end.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be their quota for the year, rather than having it be like a New Year special. But I think they could still do a dedicated Dalek story.
Maybe the finale of this will set up the Dalek in the next one.
Possibly.
Maybe they sort this out and then a Dalek shows up and it's like, haha, while you were doing this, we've got a master plan in the background. And they rub their little suckers together. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. They'll have like a post-watershed scene. It will air and go until like 9:05, and that'll be the last 9. But yeah, that's it. That's our first thoughts. We had a great time. We enjoyed it a lot.
Yes.
It was such a great concept. Like, I wanted more of it, but I'm very happy with what we got. And the runtime was good.
I'm happy we got an hour of good content rather than.
I'm glad it was an hour.
Potentially, filler content, I suppose.
Yeah, we definitely needed that extra 10 minutes to make it good. And I'm really vibing Dan a lot. Great guy.
His parents were cool too.
Yeah, they were great. The comedy's been a lot stronger writing this. Oh, when he was like, they're obsessed with Japanese food or something. The tempori. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, that was great stuff. But yeah, awesome. Well, can't below what you thought of episode 2, chapter 2, the War of the Sontarans.
Episode 2, chapter 2.
Chapter 2, that's it. That is literally what it's called.
Chapter 2 of episode 2. Yeah, but
there we go. And I'm loving the pre-title sequence. Just miss those so much.
Yes.
So glad they're back. It's so much better this way around. It also allows you to move from a scene to another location, and it not feel jaunty. It's just good for that. But yeah,
totally agree.
Can't wait for next week. We will be back, hopefully recording straight away for Once Upon Time. And yeah, very exciting things ahead. Hopefully, and that'll be halfway through the series. Oh my days!
Wow.
Can we go for half of the series being excellent? That's what we're going for. So far, we've got a third. We've got a third of great Doctor Who of a series. So yeah, looking forward to the rest. And what I'm glad is it's not just one special after this. We're getting a few episodes and then Jodie's leaving. I feel like that's quite nice. Yeah. I'm happy with that. And yeah. Wow.
So it could also, it would be interesting in a way to have a regenerate after a big event like this. But
yes, it would be very dramatic.
Because they do tend to segment them off to specials a lot.
Yes.
Other than series 1, where it's probably most effective, right?
I mean,
and I guess
End of Time.
End of Time was like a 2-part. Yeah,
but both Capaldi's and Matt Smith.
The way they built up, I guess
weren't really built up to. Yeah. Well, if it had happened like it originally was supposed to happen in the Doctor Falls, then yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been great.
That would
have been the absolute seal on that season. That would have been
like on par with series 1 for me, which is such a solid series of TV. And 4, which is also great. But yes, in terms of a regeneration series, it would have been pieces resistance.
Yeah,
but yeah. Cool. We'll see you next time, guys.